No. The porcelain teacup shattered against the marble floor, exploding into sharp white pieces as the maid flinched backward. Did I tell you to breathe that loudly? The woman snapped. The entire dining hall froze. No one dared move, not the butler, not the cooks peeking from the doorway, not the trembling maid whose hands were shaking so badly she could barely stand. Everyone knew this moment. Everyone knew how it ended. The billionaire's wife stood at the head of the table, tall, perfectly dressed, her eyes cold and unforgiving. Her voice was calm, but that calm was more terrifying than shouting. I asked you a question, she said slowly. Are you deaf, or just stupid? I'm sorry, the maid whispered, tears streaming down her face. It won't happen again. It never does, the woman replied flatly. Because you won't be here tomorrow. The maid collapsed to her knees, sobbing. The guards stepped forward. Take her out. No one protested. No one ever did. By the time the doors closed, the floor was spotless again, like the girl had never existed. That was how the house worked. And that was the house the new maid walked into the very next morning. Her name was Mara. As the iron gate slid open, the driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror. You can still turn back, he said quietly. No one would blame you. Mara tightened her grip on her small bag. I won't, she replied. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was pounding. You know who she is, he pressed. Yes. You know what happens to people who cross her? Yes. The driver shook his head. Then you're braver than most. Mara didn't respond. She watched the massive mansion grow closer, its windows dark, its walls immaculate and somehow heavy, like they were pressing down on her chest. Inside, the staff lined up as usual, eyes lowered, shoulders stiff. Whispers floated through the air the moment Mara stepped in. She won't last a week. Another one. Poor girl. The head housekeeper, a thin woman with tired eyes, pulled Mara aside. Listen to me, she said urgently. Never speak unless spoken to. Never look her in the eyes. If she insults you, say thank you. If she humiliates you, smile. Mara nodded. And if she fires me? The housekeeper laughed bitterly. When, she corrected. Not if. Before Mara could reply, sharp heels echoed across the marble floor. Everyone stiffened. The billionaire's wife entered the room. Silence fell instantly. She scanned the line of staff, her gaze stopping on Mara. Slowly, deliberately, she walked closer. You, she said. Look up. Every instinct screamed at Mara not to, but she did. Their eyes met. Gasps rippled through the room. The woman's lips curved slightly. You're new. Yes, Mara replied. And no one taught you manners, she said coolly. Or courage. Which is it? Mara swallowed. I was taught honesty. The air shifted. The head housekeeper nearly fainted. The woman stepped closer, her voice dropping. Honesty is expensive in this house. I understand, Mara said softly. But I can still afford it. For the first time in years, something flickered in the billionaire's wife's eyes, not anger. Curiosity. Chimph, she scoffed. We'll see. All day, the staff waited for the explosion. It never came. Instead, it came at dinner. The woman tasted her soup, paused, and set the spoon down. This is cold. The cook turned pale. I'll replace it immediately. Before anyone could move, Mara stepped forward. May I warm it for you? The woman looked up slowly. Did I ask for your help? No, Mara replied. But I noticed you haven't eaten properly in days. The room went deadly quiet. The woman's eyes hardened. You're observant. I have to be, Mara said. When people don't speak, their habits do. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then the woman leaned back. Warm the soup. The cook stared. The housekeeper mouthed a silent prayer. Mara returned with the bowl minutes later and placed it gently in front of her. The woman tasted it again. Perfect. She looked up. What's your name? Mara. Don't get comfortable, she said sharply. This house eats girls like you alive. Don't forget to hit the subscribers button. Mara met her gaze calmly. Then I'll try not to be easy to swallow. That night, as the lights dimmed and the mansion settled into uneasy silence, the staff whispered in disbelief. "She's still here. Did you see that?" She spoke back. From her bedroom, the billionaire's wife sat awake long after midnight, staring at the door. For the first time in years, someone hadn't feared her. And it unsettled her more than hatred ever had. Morning came quietly, but tension never slept in that house. Mara was already on her feet before sunrise, tying her apron when she heard hurried footsteps outside her room. The head housekeeper slipped in, eyes wide. "You should have been fired last night," she whispered. "Do you understand that?" Mara offered a small smile. "I understand I'm still here." "That's the problem," the woman said sharply. "She doesn't forget. She studies. Today will be worse." It was. At breakfast, the billionaire's wife didn't raise her voice. She didn't throw anything. She simply watched. "Mara," she said without looking up from her tablet. "Stand there." Mara obeyed. Minutes passed. 10. 15. Her legs began to ache. "Are you tired?" the woman asked casually. "No, Mara replied. "Liar," she said calmly. "Honesty was your strength, wasn't it?" Mara hesitated. "Then yes. My legs hurt." The woman's lips twitched. "At least you learn quickly." She dismissed everyone else and kept Mara behind. "You're either very brave or very foolish," the woman said, finally meeting her eyes. "Which one are you?" Mara chose her words carefully. "I think fear teaches people to survive. But kindness teaches them to change." A sharp laugh escaped the woman. "You think I want to change?" "I think," Mara said gently, "you're tired." Silence slammed into the room. The woman stood abruptly. "Get out." "Yes, But as Mara turned to leave, the woman spoke again. "You remind me of someone." Mara paused. "Who?" "Someone who learned too late," she replied coldly. "Don't make the same mistake." The staff watched Mara all day, waiting for the punishment. Instead, something worse happened, tasks. Endless ones. She was sent up and down the mansion, cleaning rooms no one used, reorganizing shelves already perfect, polishing floors that already shined. By afternoon, her hands were sore and her back burned. "She's trying to break you," one of the younger maids whispered as they passed in the hallway. Mara nodded. "I know. So why don't you stop?" "Because if I stop," Mara said softly, "she wins without ever changing." That evening, the storm came. A vase shattered in the living room. "Where is it?" the woman shouted. Everyone froze. Mara stepped forward. "What's missing, "My necklace," she snapped. "The emerald one." It was right there. The guards moved instantly, eyes scanning the staff. "You think someone stole it?" Mara asked. "I don't think," the woman hissed. "I know." Mara inhaled slowly. "May I ask something?" The woman's eyes blazed. "You're very fond of asking. When was the last time you wore it?" The room went quiet. The woman frowned. "Yesterday." "And before that?" She hesitated. "I don't remember." Mara walked toward the staircase. "May I check your study?" "You think I misplaced it?" the woman snapped. "I think," Mara said calmly, "you've been carrying too much lately." Something in her tone made the woman nod sharply. 5 minutes. Mara entered the study. It smelled untouched, dust and old paper. She scanned the desk, then the chair. There it was. Hanging on the armrest. Mara returned and held it out gently. "You left it here." No one spoke. The woman stared at the necklace, then at Mara. Her jaw tightened. "You may leave," she said to the guards. "All of you." They hesitated. "Now." When the room was empty, she turned to Mara. "You embarrassed me." "I didn't mean to," Mara said. "I meant to protect your staff." "Why?" the woman demanded. "Why do you care?" Mara met her gaze. "Because fear makes people careless. And careless people get hurt." The woman looked away. "You're not like the others." "No," Mara agreed quietly. "I'm not." That night, long after the mansion slept, the woman stood outside the kitchen. She watched unseen as Mara brewed tea and placed a cup outside her bedroom door without knocking. The next morning, the cup was gone. No one said a word. But something had shifted. The insults grew shorter. The silences longer. The staff noticed fewer explosions, more pauses. Still, the tension tightened like a pulled wire. Whatever wall surrounded the billionaire's wife, it was cracking. And cracks, Mara knew, either let light in or made the collapse worse. Hit the subscribe button as we continue. The first time the billionaire's wife raised her voice again, it was not in anger. It was in pain. It happened late in the evening, long after dinner, when most of the staff had retreated to their quarters. Mara was returning linen to the storage room when a sharp sound cut through the silence, something between a gasp and a choke. It came from the master bedroom. Mara froze. Every rule screamed at her to walk away. This was not her place. This was how people disappeared. She took one step back, then stopped. She heard it again. A strained whisper. "I can't breathe." Mara moved before she could think. She knocked once and opened the door. The billionaire's wife was sitting on the edge of the bed, her posture rigid, one hand clutching her chest, the other gripping the bedsheet as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Her face had lost its sharpness, drained of color. "Leave," she rasped, without looking up. "You're in pain," Mara said, crossing the room. "I said leave." Mara knelt in front of her. "I'm not going to." The woman laughed weakly. "You really don't know when to fear me, do you?" "I do," Mara replied softly. "I just don't let it decide my actions." She reached for the woman's hand. It was ice cold. "Breathe with me," Mara said. "Slow. In and out." The woman tried to pull away. "Don't touch me." "I won't hurt you," Mara said firmly. "But you're not okay." For a long moment, they stayed like that, one powerful, feared woman trembling, and one maid refusing to step back. Finally, the woman's shoulders sagged. Her breath hitched. Then broke. "I can't sleep," she whispered, voice cracking. "Every night it's the same." Mara stayed quiet. "I close my eyes and I see it all again," the woman continued. "The betrayal. The silence. The way he looked at me like I was nothing." Mara's heart tightened. "Your husband." The woman's jaw clenched. "Don't say his name." "I won't. I built this house so no one could ever hurt me again," she said bitterly. "And still, I wake up terrified." Tears slid down her face. No one had ever seen that. Mara gently placed a hand on her arm. "You don't scare people because you're strong," she said. "You scare them because you're wounded." The woman laughed through tears. "You think you know me?" "I think," Mara replied quietly, "you learned to survive by becoming someone no one could touch." The woman covered her face. "I lost a child," she whispered. The words hung heavy in the air. Mara's breath caught, but she didn't interrupt. "I blamed myself," the woman continued. "Then I blamed everyone else. If I pushed them away first, they couldn't leave me." Mara nodded slowly. "I lost my mother," she said. "And I did the same thing for years. I shut everyone out. I thought anger would protect me." The woman lowered her hands and looked at her. "What changed?" "Someone stayed," Mara said simply. "Even when I didn't deserve it." Silence wrapped around them, not sharp this time, but soft. After a while, the woman wiped her face and straightened. The mask slid back into place, though it no longer fit as tightly. "If anyone hears about this," she said coldly, "you're gone." Mara nodded. "I understand." But as she turned to leave, the woman spoke again, quieter. "Thank you for not running." The next morning, the house woke to confusion. No yelling. No shattered objects. At breakfast, the billionaire's wife paused before speaking. "The eggs are fine," she said. The cook nearly dropped the pan. The staff exchanged glances, afraid to react. Later that day, she called Mara into her study. "You overstepped last night," she said sharply. "Yes, You disobeyed me." "Yes." The woman leaned back. "And yet, I slept." Mara said nothing. "I don't know why you're here," the woman continued. "But whatever game you're playing." "I'm not playing one," Mara interrupted gently. "I'm just doing my job." The woman stared at her for a long time. Then your job is dangerous. I know. That evening, as Mara passed the staff quarters, the housekeeper pulled her aside, eyes shining. She dismissed 2 guards today, she whispered. Said the house felt crowded. Mara smiled faintly. That's good. Whatever you're doing, the woman said, gripping her arm, don't stop. But Mara knew better. Because healing didn't happen in straight lines. And fear didn't vanish without a final fight. Like and share and subscribe. Days passed, and the mansion began to breathe differently. The sharp edges of silence softened, footsteps weren't accompanied by tremors. Mara noticed it first in the kitchen, the cook humming softly while flipping pancakes, an act unheard of before. Then the housekeeper smiled, just slightly, when Mara passed by. The smallest signs, but in that place, they were seismic. The billionaire's wife observed quietly from her study, her expression unreadable. Mara could sense her watching, waiting for a misstep, for the mask to fall, for old habits to return. Mara didn't flinch. She had learned how to withstand fear herself. One evening, the woman summoned Mara. Sit, she commanded, but her voice lacked its usual bite. Mara obeyed, kneeling by the low velvet chair. The billionaire's wife studied her for a long time, as if measuring whether this quiet defiance was strength or foolishness. You've lasted longer than anyone, she said finally. Why? Mara met her gaze. Because fear keeps people in line. But respect, and understanding, change them. The woman's eyes flickered. Change me? She asked, almost whispering. Do you think someone like me can change? I know it, Mara said calmly. You've been surviving, but survival isn't living. You don't have to be the person everyone fears anymore. A silence stretched between them, thick and tense. The house seemed to hold its breath. And then, almost imperceptibly, the woman's shoulders relaxed. Weeks went by, and small things began to shift. The billionaire's wife stopped snapping at minor mistakes. She let the staff laugh quietly, allowed Mara to adjust schedules without interference, and even asked for advice on household matters. Mara could see it in the way the woman moved, lighter, less burdened. The mansion wasn't a prison anymore, it was becoming a home. One night, Mara found herself in the grand hall, placing a tray of tea for the woman, as she did every evening. This time, she hesitated at the doorway. You may come in, the woman said without looking up. Mara stepped forward. I wanted to ask, if you'd like to talk. The woman finally glanced up, her eyes softer than Mara had ever seen. Talk? Yes, Mara said. About anything. About what's behind all of this, behind the fear and the anger. Sometimes sharing it lightens the load. The billionaire's wife stared at her, then let out a slow, tired sigh. I don't know how to do that. Then I'll help, Mara said. Step by step. For the first time in years, the woman allowed herself to sit back, placing her hands loosely on her lap. She didn't hide her emotions behind walls of fury or perfection. Mara listened. She didn't judge. She just stayed. And in that simple act, something extraordinary happened. The billionaire's wife began to heal. The household noticed the change almost immediately. Mara's courage, her persistence, her kindness, it had cracked the icy armor of a woman everyone had feared for years. Staff whispered in disbelief as the mansion transformed from a place of terror into a place of calm. One afternoon, the woman called Mara into her office. She held out a hand, not in command, but in gratitude. You've done something no one else could, she said quietly. You reminded me that fear doesn't have to rule my life. Mara nodded. And you reminded me that even the strongest walls can let in light, if someone believes it's possible. The billionaire's wife's lips curved into a faint smile, the first genuine one Mara had ever seen. She didn't say anything more. She didn't need to. That smile said it all. Fear had lost its power, compassion had won, and a household that once trembled at every command could finally breathe. Mara left the office that evening, walking through the halls she had once feared as much as anyone. But now, each step felt lighter. The laughter of the staff, the warmth of small conversations, even the soft glow of the chandeliers, all of it reminded her that change didn't come from power, wealth, or fear. It came from courage, patience, and the quiet insistence to care when others only feared. The billionaire's wife watched from her study, alone but no longer untouchable, her heart slowly opening to the possibility of life beyond the walls she had built. And Mara, the maid who had refused to shrink, had done what no one else could. She had made a difference. The house was never the same again.